Loom knit a Rattle Ball Baby Toy today on GoodKnitKisses. Welcome to GoodKnitKisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. To get a copy of the pattern, click on the link in the description below. This Rattle Ball Baby Toy is so cute and squishy. Is it a square? Is it a ball? I don't know. It's just fun. So we are loom knitting this today. You are going to need for materials a Red Heart Chic Sheep or a number 4 worsted weight yarn, 35 yards, 2 colors, contrasting colors. I'm calling for in the pattern lace, which is a white color, and VIP, which is blue, which are these right up here. In this sample here, I'm using color linen, which is kind of an off-white, and Mai Tai, which is this kind of bright coral color. And you're going to need a small gauge, 3/8 of an inch measured center peg to center peg loom with at least 46 pegs. I'm using the KB Looms Baby Knit Looms, the round loom set, and it's 56 pegs. It's this loom right here. And you just need to be able to knit in a flat panel, so any small gauge loom is going to work that's set at 3/8 of an inch peg spacing. You're also going to need a tapestry needle, and the gauge is 4.5 stitches in 11 rows in a 1-inch garter stitch. It makes approximately a 3-inch cube. You will need to know how to U-wrap knit and purl. Also, knowing how to cast on and bind off is good. I will go over those things as we go along in the pattern. And I also recommend that you use butterfly bobbins, and that's going to help you when we work through this half lap V&M braid. Now, don't be dismayed by all of this written instruction for half lap V&M braid. We will go over that in the tutorial here. So, but I recommend the butterfly bobbin, which is great for having the 35 yards here. You can actually work with a very small amount, maybe some scrap yarn, and it helps you twist these stitches up and not get your yarns all tangled. So there is a link to how to do that down here in the instructions. We'll go over everything that we need to know in this video. Let's get into the construction of the toy. See you in a moment. We're going to cover 5 major elements in this video. First is an overview of the construction, and then there's adding stitches after we do the bottom square, and then potential hang-up areas, which look like a regular pattern, but they actually work up just a little bit different. Also starting the lap V&M braid, and sewing and stuffing your toy and putting in the jingle bell. Let's begin. All right, so let's go over the construction here. We've got a flat panel that you can see we haven't seamed it up at all yet, and it looks mostly like it's garter stitch. However, there's a few little spots here that are going to change up just a little bit. You can't see that they change the pattern, but we'll go over this potential hazard spot. You're going to start off by casting on and making your first little square. This is going to be in the accent color B. So this is the bottom square because it's the first one that we make. Is the main rectangle, which is working with color A, and color B, which is this color accent with the 2-color braid. That's the lap V&M braid. It looks kind of like a rope. And then you move on and make your final square, and that's called the top square, as we have it called in the seaming diagram. Now, what you're going to do is work on the knitting loom. You can work right to left or left to right, and I've got notes in the pattern as to which way to start. So be careful and pay close attention to that if you prefer to knit very left-handed or right-handed. There is a part in here where you start switching for a few rows which direction you are purling from, and it's only to set it up correctly for the lap V&M braid. So bear with me on those parts, and I'll show you when we get to that part. Also, once you make the first square, you're going to be working these first set of stitches, and then you're going to be casting on. Now you can see how these are a little bit loopy. Be sure and use a knit cast on and like a double E-wrap cast on, or you can use a true cable cast on. I wouldn't use a half hitch or thumb cast on because it'll be way loopier than this, and it won't be as easy to sew through. But this little loopy part is actually going to be hidden hidden inside the toy, so it's actually fine like it is. Then we're going to go over this little problem spot that looks a little goofy. It looks like we have a little missing row of ridges here, but you can't see it when it's all laid out. And that happens here again as well. And that's so that the color lays right, that there's not any color peeking through incorrectly. And then when we get to this part here, for the very last square, it's going to look like you have an extra row of knit in here. And that's just to get the color set up correctly again. And we'll go back over this. The main construction is that you need a long cast on tail and a long bind off tail to sew it in, which we will cover. And what that does is it sews together the sides of the squares against the long edge of the rectangle here. And the same for this one up here. These sides go against this side of the rectangle here. And then the two ends of the rectangle get sewn together. And then these little rough ends are never seen. All right, so let's move on with the pattern and work on these first little spots here. See you soon. For the beginning cast on, you want to cast on your choice. I recommend the true cable cast on, the long tail cast on, or a modified E-wrap cast on. I'm going to make the modified E-wrap today. The main thing you need to know is if you work with a cast on that goes in one direction, you need to end it on your peg one where you want to start your row. And if you're working on one that works across and then back, you need to make sure wherever it ends, that's where the peg one begins. So I'm going to spin this loom around and we're going to do the modified E-wrap cast on. If you're a right-handed knitter, I want you to make sure that your cast on ends with peg one on the left. And if you're a left-handed knitter, then you want to make sure it ends on the right. So I'm doing the modified E-wrap cast on. Okay. And then I'm going to put my slip knot on one of these pegs here and then just work across my cast on pegs. My cast on for this pattern is 13. So I'm just going to E-wrap all the way across until I have 13. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. Then I'm going to take my yarn and put it in the front and then we're just going to knit it. So it's more like a flat knit on this very first one, and then to keep it loose, I kind of U-wrap knit it. It's still a little bit tighter. I don't want it to be super loose. So just knit across, okay? Knit across all stitches, and then when you get to the beginning, you are at peg one to start row one. So for right-handed, I am ending my cast on the left, and for left-handed knitters, I'm ending my cast on the right. Okay, so now we're going to start working the rectangle. You are going to be knitting a row and purling a row, okay? So you're just going to work row 1 and row 2, knit 1 and purl 1. The knit is just a U-wrap knit, okay? And work those rows 1 and 2 15 times total. So work row 1 and 2 to make one garter ridge, and then you're going to repeat that 14 times more. So once you do that, you will cut this color. I'm working with contrast B, or color B. All right. I'm going to work across, show you the purl stitch, just in case someone on here has not done that before. Last stitch here on row 1, and we're going to put our yarn down below, pull up a loop, take off the old loop, put the new one on, and pull it. And do it again, pull up a loop, take off the old, put on the new, and pull it. Just go ahead and repeat that. You want 15, so 15 times this is repeated total. All right, pause your video, and I'll meet you back when you finish up your first square. For other cast-ons, click on the link in the description below for true cable cast-on or long tail cast-on. Okay, here is where we're going to change the yarn, and we're going to start our main rectangle. And we have to add all these extra stitches in here because we've only got 13. So you want to grab your color A, contrast A, snip the contrast B here. Just gone ahead and cut that. And if you're not sure, you can just flip your loom over and make sure that you have 15 of these garter ridges on here because you've repeated that 15 times. All right, so you're going to just grab your white yarn, well, contrast A, and knit this first stitch here. So just put it around the first, this first peg here, and lift up and over. Okay, and then knit the next stitch. So this is just a knit row, and you're going to knit all of these stitches here across. Okay, and when you get to the 13th stitch, we are going to start adding on. So go ahead and pause your video if you need. I'll keep mine going here. Okay. So here's where we're going to add on. We're going to go over this direction, and we're going to add 33 stitches, and that will give us a total of 46 stitches. So I'm just going to take my yarn behind my next peg, and I'm going to E-wrap that twice. And I'm going to lift up and over on that bottom loop and pull it in, make it nice and tight, and then go to the next one. We're going to double E-wrap the next peg, lift up and over, and that is cast on. And I like to go ahead and pull on these, tug on these, so that it's not extra loopy. Just go on to the next one. So this is a double E-wrap cast on that you can make. You can also use a true cable cast on here as well. You can totally do that. And of course, we've got the link down in the description below for that if you'd like to use that method. I do recommend not using the 1/2 inch, the thumb cast on that kind of does this. It's just too loopy and messy. All right, continue casting on and pause your video. I will see you at that moment, and we'll talk about what to do next. See you soon. All right, now that you've cast it on, you're going to be working this direction again, and you're going to be purling. So we're going to purl an entire row and knit an entire row, and then we'll do that one more time so that when we meet back up, we will again be on this side. Now you can see I'm making a smaller version. This is not quite to my final number of stitches. I'm just adding on a little bit just to demonstrate for this smaller sample here. So continue by purling a row, knitting a row, and doing that over again. And when I meet you back up, you will have 4 rows completed, and we'll be on this side over here. See you soon. Okay, I'm on row 6 in the pattern, and this is where the contrast color band comes in. Now, if you notice, I pull this apart, and you can see how there's a deeper valley in between these ridges here than there are, say, right here. That's because we have to set it up to be able to have this half Latvian braid kind of hop over and above these stitches. It kind of rests up on top. And we have to change the color and make this color change on a knit row. Otherwise, it will have the other color peeking through and it just won't look right. So you're going to be a little uncomfortable in the direction you're purling for a moment here. We are going to start by adding in our next color, which is color B, and go ahead and knit across. So we're knitting the opposite direction as we've been doing before. So go ahead and add in this color and knit across all stitches. And then you're going to purl across all stitches. So we have a knit row and then we have a purl row. And when you pause your video and come back, we will be at the half Latvian braid, and we'll go over how to work this. It's a good idea to have your yarn in the little bobbin, or you can move your ball back and forth. I'll show you how to do that because the yarn will get twisted. So go ahead and work those 2 rows, pause your video, and I'll meet you back up and we'll have them on this side. And do not cut this color A. See you soon. The half Latvian braid is our next row, and we're working with both colors as we go. I've got a little bobbin, or you can use a ball, and it's easy to have this color B here so it can twist the yarn around. It's going to twist as we go, and we'll be purling all these stitches. So we are purling in the correct direction again, and we want to make sure that whatever yarn we need to use next, it comes under the last yarn used. So the last yarn we used here is up on top, and now we're going to grab color A and start purling this stitch here. Okay, so let's go ahead and purl it. All right, now we've got the loop and we're going to take it off. But before we do, we're going to take B and move it. Okay, see how we're moving it? And now I'm putting color B underneath this stitch that I'm making, and then I'm going to place it on my loom and pull on A. Just like that. Okay, and we also have a video with the baby booties, so if you want to see it done on there, we've got that as well. If you find this video a little more confusing, I might explain it slightly different there. But we're going to be twisting now as we go and purling. Okay, so now I have used A and I want to grab B and go underneath. So I'm going to grab B and go under. Okay, and now I'm going to purl with B, lift up the loop, and as I pick up B, I'm going to place A behind the peg and underneath B. Okay, then we replace this and pull on the loop, and now we want to pull A. So we're going to grab B from under A, and then we're going to purl with it. Purl, lift that loop off, take B and move it underneath and place it, and then pull on that. And now we want to use B, and so we're going to grab B and move it. Notice I'm not doing anything with A, I'm just moving B around. And now we're going to purl, lift up, place A underneath, and replace the loop, and keep going. So we're going to do B, and pull up, take off, and move them. You could just move it in one fell swoop like that. And you notice the reason why I'm moving this around is because if I didn't, then I would get all my yarn strands tangled and it would be harder to keep up with. And I find this process is easier on a table, but also all in one row in one sitting. So be sure and do this one row in one sitting, otherwise you might get confused on which way you pulled the yarn last. And to make sure that it is being twisted correctly, you'll have to turn the loom over and flip it. And you can look back here and you can see that this yarn is in fact twisting. Okay, so continue on with your work. And if you flipped it over and you're like, oh, which one did I just do? You can see that A was pulled underneath this one, okay? And then now we're going to move this back over here. All right, so continue on with this row, pause your video, and after you finish that, you are just going to let A hang, and then you're going to continue with 2 more rows of B. You'll be working across this next part with B in knitting, and then purling, and then you'll cut it. So that's it. So you'll be back to your standard purling and knitting in the same direction. Okay, so work the 2-tone color row, which is the Latvian braid, and then work 2 rows in garter stitch with B. All right, pause your video and I'll meet you back up after. Okay, so now you can go ahead and safely cut tail on B, because you're going to be done with that color for a while. And you've just completed one of the Latvian braids here with the color accent. Now you're going to be working on this middle section here, and you're going to work a knit row and then a purl row for a garter ridge, and then you're going to repeat that 6 more times, and then follow it up with 1 more knit row in the contrast A. So you're going to actually end this main A color over on this opposite side, opposite of the square. So in this sample, though, if you start counting what's on my video here, this is actually my my knit sample, and it has 1 less ridge. So you can see I have 6 ridges here, but yours is actually going to have 7 ridges, and then you're going to end on this side over here after you've knit. All right, pause your video, and I will see you at that point. See you soon. All right, so you should be at this point here in your pattern. You've knit up to where you need to begin another half Latvian braid section with the color bands here. So you're going to be repeating rows 6 through 10 once more, Okay, and then when you're done, you're going to pick up on A again and knit these last few rows. So this is actually rows 11 through 12, and you're going to do that twice, and that's with contrast A. Okay, so I'm actually at that point now because I didn't go any further on mine. You're just at that point. So go ahead and pause your video. When we come back, then what I want you to do is look at these instructions here. So I'm actually going to be knitting once more 11 through 12, which is actually knitting this row and then purling the row back, knitting the row, purling the row back, and then we are going to begin binding off and working the rest of it. So after you are done with your second half lap V and braid, work 2 more ridges and pause your video and meet me back up at that section for binding off. See you soon. All right, so now we're on row 13, and all we're doing is binding off 33 stitches. So we start by knitting the first 2, and then we take the second, move it onto the first, and knit over, and then move it to the empty peg. And do it again by just knitting the second one, lifting it up, putting it on the first, and knitting it over. And I assume that most people watching this video will have done a basic bind off before. So you really just want to do this until you have the original 13 stitches left, meaning you'll have the one that you've been working with, and then you'll have 12 more over to the right. So if you want to go over to the end and just count out the 13 total and put a stitch marker there to just stop yourself, then that's a great way to do it. And so you should have a look just like this with your last lap V and braid showing like that. And then when we get to the other side, once you finish binding off and you get here, all you're going to do is work those last 13 stitches in the same yarn, and then you're cutting the white and you're not using it again, and then you are starting to add back in, just as you've done before, you add back in a knit row, work in the opposite direction, making that knit row in the color B, or contrast B, okay? And then you can actually work one more knit row over the opposite direction and get back in that same pattern of purling in the direction that you like. So you're actually going to have 2 knit rows of the same color twice. So this is actually 2 knit rows of B. And so you're just going to work that final square. And again, we're looking at my needle sample, and so the square is actually on the opposite side, but you're going to have that that square made, and then bind off the end and have a nice long tail for weaving in. And the next time I see you, I'll show you how to sew it all in together and stuff it. And that's it. So we'll see you soon for that. Go ahead and finish yours up. Okay, this next segment, I'm going to show seaming this together, and if you are a right-handed loom knitter, the boxes or these squares are going to be in the wrong side. So your boxes are going to be on the left here, and the box up at the top is going to be on the right. And your tail may be on one side or the other. That doesn't matter. If you're a left-handed knitter, then you are, or loom knitter, your boxes will be correct on here, but your tail may or may not be in the right spot. So I'm not going to flip this video around. I just want you to see that it's going to look a little bit different, but the instructions are still the same. You're going to see me sewing this together. All right, let's jump into the instructions. All right, so you have bound off and left a long tail for seaming, and you want to weave in all the little smaller tails everywhere, and go ahead and wash and block this. And I've got a video down below you can see on washing and blocking. Blocking usually helps you even out the stitches and everything, but in this case we want to wash it so that we can have a nice clean toy for baby. So you're just going to wash it in mild detergent and water, squeeze out the excess, maybe press it in a towel, and lay it out. Flip it every hour or so until it's completely dry, and then you can start seaming it together. Okay, so in the beginning, if you made a nice long tail, that's great. And if not, if you forgot, you can go ahead and work this short tail in to the back here, and then start a new tail. And if you have to start a new tail, you can choose to put it where you had this short tail, or you could even put it, say, in the corner right here, because we're going to actually be stitching the sides of this square to this long side here of the rectangle. And the same thing happens up here as well. So I'm actually going to do that now, and it's the same technique. So if you, for stitching, so if you decide to use the tail placement here, that's fine. I will cover all the stitches that you need for sewing this in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sew in or weave in this tail here just so you see how I do it. And I'm just going to weave it in on the wrong side of the fabric. And I'm using a duplicate stitch method, and I've got a slower video on this, so we'll link to that as well. I'm just going to go down through a few stitches and then come around through this little smile here and then this little frown up here. We're just going to go around the stitch here and then up and go around the stitch up here. And we're just zigzagging around these stitches, and it just matches it. It's called the duplicate stitch method. And so once you have a few of them in there, you can just go ahead and leave that long tail there or snip it off. The last one you can come through and kind of split some yarn, and it stays put very well. And that's the best way to weave in and garter that I think. Okay, and so now I'm just going to get my other tail, and we're going to be attaching it on the inside here. But before we do that, let's go ahead and match up our edges. Now, I found that having some removable stitch markers works really well for this. Now, this side of the square is going to match up with this line here, so you can bend it and fold it and go ahead and put in a stitch marker here. And then I'd go ahead and come all the way around to this other side over here, and you can match up this end with this end, because these two sides are going to get put together. So we can put these two together and hold it and pinch it and then kind of follow along the line, and then I know that that corner is going to meet about right here, which is just right because this lines up with the square here. And just put my other little stitch marker in here. Okay, and then that way, when I start stitching along here, I can know about where my stitches need to be matching up, so I don't get too short with one and long with the other. Okay, so we're just going to spin it around to this sort of inside corner. You're trying to miss the ridge stitches here. We want to keep the two ridges up at the top pretty consistent, where we're not putting our accent yarn color through them, because we want to make the top and the bottom look the same. And when it comes down here, we're just going to be going through these edge stitches here. So this is just more for consistency. All right, so we're going to come through these top stitches here, and then the side of this garter stitch right underneath this ridge, this first ridge here. Make sure to go through two stitches up top and pull through and make a tail. And then on the corner here, we're just going to go through the same stitches again and secure that. And it's good to go through the corners a couple of times, just to have a nice, secure and straight corner. Okay. All right, now we're going to go along the edge here, and you're going to do the same thing. You're just going through the other top stitches. Right where you cast it on, there should be two stitches going that direction. So you're going to grab those two and go up through where the next ridge is. There's two stitches on the side here of the garter stitch right below the ridge, and just come up through there. And you just continue going in that same spot along here. Just put in your stitches evenly until you get to the corner. Let's go through another one. Here's another set of two, and then a ridge. And then you've got these little whip stitches along the edge here. There's another set. Let me move this over so you can see it. Here's another set of two, and then a ridge. All right, there we go. And you can see the two ridge stitches here, or ridges right here, evenly. Okay, continue going along and meet me back up at this corner, actually this corner right here, and I'll show you how to go along the bind off or actually cast on edges. It'll be the same as when you come down here. So we'll go through those stitches together. See you in a moment. All right, so I'm on this corner. I've removed that stitch marker and I went ahead and connected the end here with that stitch marker. Again, there is a little bit of an overlap with my white. I'm making it just a little bit longer because these seams are going to kind of be put together a little bit. So that's okay. Just want to show you that for a second. You can see these stitches looking all nice and consistent. And I've gone through this corner here, and now we're going through the same stitches on the bottom that we've done, the edge of this rectangle with the cast on stitches, but now we're coming up through this side of these V stitches on the side here. This is where we had our cast on. So we're still coming up through 2 stitches on the square. And again, I'm going through the corner a couple of times just to make sure it's nice and squared off. And then we're going to go through the next stitches and then this little V, and that's it. It's basically like you just did on the other one, except you're going through all these little V stitches. And if you need to, you can skip skip one of the V's over if you have to, if you got to kind of make sure this is nice and even. You may have a few more of these right here than you do the V's. I'm just going to go through and eyeball what I think is pretty even, and I may make adjustments along the way. It's okay to grab a spot down here and have to maybe go through the same V twice over here just to get it lined up. That's called easing the fullness in sewing. Okay, so you're going to continue going along until you get down to the end here. Pause your video and I'll meet you back up for the next phase. See you soon. Through this last stitch, and I actually end up coming up through underneath this garter on this edge here. And so now we're going to work the side of the box here, the closing the side. And you can, before you move on, if you want to look at this, inspect it, make sure it looks nice and square and the stitches are straight, this is the time to do it. And you can also kind of pull on these whip stitches and get it nice and even. This is the time to do that because it's going to be harder to do that later on. So just go ahead and go through this side here, and I'm just going through the top stitch and the stitch right underneath. So I've got one here and then one right here. So it's this row here and then the kind of the row of the stitch that's kind of behind this garter ridge. And then I've come over and do the same thing over here. I've got this top stitch and then the stitch that's right behind it. And then I pull it up and then it closes that off. Okay, come over here and go to the next ridge, and you can see where it just came up. We're going to go through here and then this stitch right here and go over to the other side where I just was, and you can see going through there and then that stitch there and pull through, and then it pushes those two together. Okay, so now you're going to do the same thing right here. It's a little different just because we got that accent there, but you can see where you came through last. Just follow that down again, come up and grab the 2 stitches, and let's see if I got them. Got 1, 2, and then grab these 2 over here, see where I came from, and grab these 2 stitches here. Actually, that's this one and this stitch. Okay, and then come back over to this side and grab these 2 stitches here, and it's underneath the rope right here, and then go to the other side and do the same thing again, and you can see it pulling them together. It's a little messier. It's a little harder to see where this little Latvian rope is. But I just kind of pull the stitches aside and see where that yarn came out of, and then I can find where I need to go next. And then I just do that. Okay, and then you can see how it's pulling those two accents together. And then I just switch and come over to this white area here and do what I did before with the 2 stitches. And these 2 stitches here, and back and forth. And that's pretty much it. So you just continue stitching along that same direction. When you pull it together, it starts cinching it together, kind of like magic. You can see how it starts pulling, making these garter stitches move together. And that is my corner right there. Okay, so you're just going to keep going up until you get to the end of the little box here, and then you're going to get your polyfill like this and stuff it. So we'll do that next. See you in a moment. After you finish sewing up this part, you're going to want to take your tapestry needle off and sew in this little beginning strand here. Now, if you left it long enough and you like that whip stitch look, you can finish out this stitch down here or add in some more. It's completely up to you. It's not necessary. So I'm just going to thread this back on my tapestry needle and work my way inside. Okay, so we're going right inside the box. And then we're going to go around a few of these stitches and do what we've done before and just done a duplicate stitch. Oops. Okay. And I do want to make this one sewn in because I don't want it to, I don't want to unravel or go anywhere. So I really want to go around all these stitches nicely because it does connect the box with that whip stitch. Okay. I'll go ahead and clip that. Clip it, you know, long enough. You don't need to clip it very short. All right. And then now we can start stuffing it. So just take your polyfill and you can pull it apart in little pieces and it tends to stuff it nicely. And then go ahead and once you've got about half or 3/4 full, you can add in your little jingle bell. And I like kind of lining it and making a little spot to place that jingle bell right in here in the middle. And then you want to put enough in the top so it kind of seals that up. And then this little flap is going to cover it. And you can fill as much or as little as you want. You can have it like really full or just slightly squishy. It just depends on you. And then you can start sewing up most of this. And then when you get that last little part, you can take stuffing out or put more in before you make your final decision if you want this to look more like a ball or more of a squarish shape. Okay, so you can just kind of play with it and squish it down, whatever you want to do. All right, so I'm going to continue sewing mine, and we've got 2 strands on here. This is the one where I finished. I can sew this until I get to this strand and then continue with this strand, or if this one's long enough, you can finish out the whole thing, clip this one. It's really just to make it convenient for you if you didn't have enough strands before by having this nice and long. So this is completely up to you where you want to stop. You can weave in this end here and then take this one and go all the way around and even make that little whip stitch here and cover up this little spot. That's totally up to you. So it's there for you if you like. So go ahead and finish sewing this up, and I'll meet you back to show you how to finish off the very last one and hide your seams in or your tails on the inside. Pause your video and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so I've finished the end here, and you can see actually where that area was I was suggesting you could put a whip stitch in. I went ahead and put that in. I worked along this side first, which was the back of where that flap was, and then the side here. And then I picked up with my long strand that from my bind off and worked along here, and I actually added a little bit more of the stuffing inside. And now I could just stick this tail all the way through and pull it out another side and try and guide it to where I have some of this pink coming out, or this Mai Tai color that I'm using, the contrast B color. Pull it through, and then I'm going to come back down through the stitch and go in the opposite area, the other side, same color. And I'm not trying to pull in on the ball or anything, but it actually is just kind of stitching in a little bit of the stuffing, and also kind of keeps my rattle in the middle. And I'm just going to go through a couple more spots, putting the rest of this tail in. And you could just do this until you have no tail left, or you can decide to cut it at any point. Make sure I'm not doing it too tight. Okay, and I think this is going to be the last time I can pull it through. So just find that needle, pull it on through. Oh, and there it is. And when I tug on it, it just popped right back in my toy, and I don't have to trim it. And there we have the Rattle Ball Baby Toy. Isn't that adorable? And you got your two cute little booty slippers, and make a fun little gift or layette set for a friend or family member. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. I hope you have a great day, and happy knitting and crochet. Bye everyone. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.